Hey, friends, how are you? Thank you so much for joining me for my class about tarot history and why it matters. I appreciate all of you for being here. If you're here live or if you're watching the replay, thank you so much. The next hour, I promise, is going to be entertaining. It will not be dry and boring. I am not an historian. But I do have some stuff I want to talk about, and I want to hear what you have to say as well. Before we get going, I just need to celebrate Kathy Lipinski, brand new member here for our channel. Appreciate you so much. I appreciate all of you here today. So nice to see you. We have quite a few of our members here. Horse Van Dunn, Claire C., Clumsy Clairvoyance, so nice to see all of you, and so nice to see everyone here. Good Journeys Tarot, Dave Victor, Marion K. Tarot, 12-Step Tarot, Ashley, Kim, Jackie Scott, happy to see you all. And as other people come in, we will welcome them. So the first thing I have to say, and I've already said it, but I'm going to say it again, I am not an historian. I am not a scholar by any stretch of the imagination. If you are interested in really diving deep into tarot history, read books by Robert M. Place. Read books by Ronald Decker. Read the blog of Mary K. Greer. Read the blog of Cheryl Smith. These people have put their time and energy and knowledge into studying tarot history. I haven't. So I'm going to be painting this with a very broad brush. But I do have some things to share with you. I do have some things to say. If you have some knowledge that contradicts or corrects what I'm saying, please do let me know. I am a fallible source here, but there are some things that are important to say. Thank you so much. Here's an important thing to say. Thank you so much, Claire C., for the super chat. We really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. Let me say hi to a few other people that have come in. Our member, Betty Flesher, glad you're here. Carrie Dunnick, Donna DeRoma, nice to see you. Christine Grabowski, Moonlight Tarot, Ashriel Knight, Billy Wolsifer, so nice to see you all. All right. Now, let me just ask, because this is the first time I've used this aspect of technology. Do you see that do you see my face being little and also on the screen? Do you see the Visconti Sforza, the oldest surviving tarot? Just go on and say, yes, we see that, or no, we don't see that. Because if you don't see that, I'm going to have to get tech support in here real quick. So just let me know. Dave, stop apologizing. Your toenail knows more about tarot than any 10 of us. Okay, good. So I think I set things up right. Okay, good. Because my toenail does not know more about IT. And there it is. Okay, thank you. Okay, why are we doing this class? Because there are many tarot readers. And remember, when a tarot reader is out in public, whether as a professional reader or just casually, when you're out in public as a tarot reader, you are representing, in a way, all of us, the whole body of tarot. And there are a lot of tarot readers, tarot authors, tarot artists who have not taken the time to learn even the basic historic thinking on tarot. And there are those who have learned the basic historic thinking and reject it and make some really interesting wild leaps. I have heard professional tarot readers say to clients, no one knows the origin of tarot. False. It's not true. There are many rumors. There's much speculation about the origin of tarot. And the interesting thing, of course, is that we all have experienced how profoundly prophetic and connective and empowering esoteric tarot is, right? That's why we're here. And so we want to assume that tarot comes from some mystical origin. I don't know if you've seen this deck. This is Moonchild Tarot, really, really beautiful deck by Danielle Noel. And it comes with this great little book. And it starts out with or almost starts out, like the second chapter is a chapter on tarot history where she makes this really weird jump. She says accurately that there are two schools of thought about tarot history. There is what she calls the physical proof connection, right? The evidence. I asked Mary Kay Greer, what do you say to the people who want to tell a whole story about tarot coming from Egypt or coming from the Cathars or whatever? What do you say to those people? And Mary's just real cool. She's like, show me the evidence, because there is none. So, right. So this author does say, okay, there is physical proof. And what I'm going to show you today is the physical proof. But then she says, the mystical esoteric connection, and this is where it goes into the speculation of tarot comes from Egypt. Tarot was found in a sarcophagus. Tarot comes from the Cathars. And what she says basically is that if you believe that tarot is mystical, then you also have to believe all of these things. And what I'm going to say to you, and this is why tarot history matters, the fact that tarot's history is mundane does not make esoteric tarot any less profound. And when I first learned tarot history, I had been a professional reader for quite a few years already. And I was taken aback. I was taken aback by the mundane sort of, mundane's the best word for it, the mundane origins of tarot. I was taken aback by it. How is it that I have dedicated my spiritual and professional and creative life to this? And then I realized that when we find the true origin of tarot, and yet we understand how mystical and amazing tarot is, there's magic in that. And that's what I want to share with you. Okay, so good to see all of you. A few more people have come in. Glad to see you. Donna, yes, we missed you, but hope to see you soon. Yolanda, thanks for being here. Thank you for being a member of this channel. Sarah, nice to see you. Thanks for being a member here. Okay, so we are going to start with the Visconti Sforza Tarot. This is the oldest surviving tarot. You can there's a number of different reproductions. I've got Golden Tarot here, which is this beautiful reproduction. It's got a great book, all of that. This is what it looks like. And it was created to celebrate a marriage in 1494. 1494. Tarot has only been around since 1494 or thereabouts. This is the first deck that we found. There may have been earlier ones, but not so much, right? Emperor Maximilian married Bianca Maria Sforza. And what you see here is the Lover's card from the tarot deck that was created to commemorate the wedding. And in that tarot deck, the Lover's card depicts Maximilian and Bianca Maria. So the Visconti family and the Sforza family are united. This Lover's card begins the tradition of depicting real people in tarot decks. And we're going to talk about that more in a few minutes. And it is, as I said, one of the very first tarot decks. Now, at this time, tarot was a game. It was played as a game by the upper class in the courts in Italy. It's a trump-taking game, much like bridge. The question becomes, how did this card game become esoteric tarot? Yes, Donna, Robert Place is a very, very good source. If you're looking for history, as I said earlier, if you are looking for real tarot history, Bob Place is a great guy to go to. And we have to say thank you to Clumsy Clairvoyance. Thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate you. All right, so tarot is played as a game in Italy, and merchants bring it to France, specifically to Marseille. By 1507, the game of tarot is being played in Marseille. Now, here's an interesting thing. In France, to this day, the game of tarot is played. It's very, very popular. And most of the serious players of tarot think we esoteric and occult tarotists are off our rockers for using tarot as we do. They love to play it, just like, you might know pinochle players or cribbage players or poker players. They get really into it. Well, the tarot players in France have been that way since 1507. They're that way today. Now, 1781. There were two occult writers. And, this is where those of us who have been in the tarot community or the pagan community, we are very familiar with what we call witch wars. Well, I'm going to tell you about a witch war. I'm going to tell you about a couple of them in this story. Oh, good point, Donna. France had printers. Yeah, totally makes sense. Absolutely. Okay, so there were two occult writers, Court de Gebelin and Comte de Millay. It was Court de Gebelin who theorized the Egyptian origin of tarot. He was the one who decided that the god Thoth, Toth, Tehote, however you pronounce that, otherwise known as Hermes, was the writer of tarot. Now, I'm pretty sure that gods don't write books or draw pictures. I'm pretty sure. But that was the theory. Tarot comes from Egypt, and it comes from Hermes Trismegistus, the god Thoth, or Mercury, depending on where you come from. The idea that tarot was rooted in the mystical teachings of Hermes Trismegistus. Trismegistus, of course, means thrice great, the thrice great Hermes. Both of these authors, Court de Gebelin and Comte de Millay, draw a connection between tarot, the Hebrew alphabet, and Kabbalah. Now, and I'm going to tell you more about this in a moment, in 1785, Attila, and I'm not sure how we pronounce this. Is it Attila? Attila? I'm not sure, but he wrote the first book of tarot divination. By the 1800s, the French occultist Eliphas Levi contributed to the occult tradition of the tarot and laid the foundation for the Golden Dawn. And in 1888, the Golden Dawn begins in London. I have often said that without the Golden Dawn, none of us would be here. Now, there are modern Golden Dawn practitioners. Whether there's an unbroken line from 1888 till now and which organization is that organization, I do not know. There'll be plenty of people who try to tell you, but I don't know what the truth is. But let's go back to Attila. His real name, Jean-Baptiste Aliette. The metaphysical name that he takes, Italia, I don't know, however you pronounce it, is just Aliette backwards. Oh, here it is, Ataya. Thank you, Ashrael. See, I tell you, I'm not a historian. And one of the reasons I'm not a historian is I cannot pronounce these names, nor do I remember dates. I am, if you look up Mary K. Greer, the first thing you see is not tarot reader or tarot author, it's independent scholar. And she has earned that. That is not me. Okay, Ataya, thank you. Okay. So French occultist, he was the first to popularize tarot divination. We can see him as the first professional tarot occultist. He made a living by card divination. So those of us who are professional readers, he's our granddaddy, the very first. Not the first professional psychic, not the first professional fortune teller, but the first who did it with tarot. He also designed the first occult tarot deck and wrote the first tarot book. And the reason he wrote it is the witch war that I wanted to tell you about. Okay. So Court de Gebelin, he was Antoine Court. He was a Protestant clergyman. And this is an interesting thing, right? Because we know that tarot comes out of Catholic Italy, and then it goes to France, and these French Protestant clergy are the people who, sort of find the occult within it or superimpose the occult onto it. And so, tarot really does come from Catholicism and Protestantism very, very clearly. Ashriel, I remember hearing from a tarot teacher who said that Court de Gebelin made the tarot mystical by saying it came from Egypt. He did it purposefully with no real evidence just to mysticize the system. Yes, this is exactly what I'm talking about. And so in a weird way, when people do this today, they're doing the same thing. It drives me nuts. I don't want people to do it. I want people to find the spiritual within the mundane. But people are doing exactly that today. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so here's what had happened. Court de Gebelin had published this massive work, Le Monde Primitif. This book says that tarot was an ancient Egyptian book of arcane wisdom. There it is. There it is. So, not to be outdone, Ataya writes another book. The title translated into English is How to Entertain Yourself with a Deck of Cards Called Tarot in 1785. So de Gebelin puts out this book. Ataya, not to be outdone, puts out another book. So de Gebelin is saying, okay, this is arcane wisdom from Egypt. Ataya says, okay, this is how we read these cards. So he codifies it, right? The first book of methods of divination with tarot. In it, Ataya claims that he had been introduced into the art of cartomancy in 1751, long before the appearance of Court de Gebelin's work. So imagine, if these two guys had the internet, they'd be trolling each other and flaming each other back and forth. I did it first. No, I did it first, right? So when we see people doing that now, is it new? No, it's part of our tradition. Ataya also created a tarot deck. So this would have been the very first tarot deck created for occult purposes, created for divination. Every other tarot deck prior to this was created as a game deck to play games. Kim, by mysticism, they mean ecstacism or treating an unknown culture as other by making up lies about it. Not exactly a form of respect that they claim to show interest in. Well spoken. I completely agree. Completely. So I want to talk just for a moment about, let's just go back for a minute. There's a jump here. So 1507, tarot emerges in Marseille. That's just a few years after, right? 1494, when the Visconti Sforza wedding takes place. So that's quick. But then we have a couple of hundred years between 1507 and 1781. What happened in there? Well, one of the things that happened was tarot poetry. This is true. How did we go? How did we go from playing cards with tarot to divining with tarot? Where did this come from? It came from a fad that the people playing the game of tarot came up with over time. They would make up poetry comparing people they knew with the characters in the deck. When I think about it, I think, well, yeah, if it had happened in the 1980s, it would have been like boasting rap, right? But they made up this poetry. And eventually, that poetry became prophetic. So when we look at the history of tarot, there are two traditions, even in its most mundane history, that are part of tarot culture today. One is picturing actual people as characters in the cards, and the other is writing poetry about tarot. In fact, making up poems about tarot is how tarot made the leap into tarot divination. Is that cool or what? All right. So what comes next? Solabusca. This is the first complete 78 card tarot deck. We have no idea who the author was, who the artist was. It's from the late 15th century. It's also the first fully illustrated tarot deck. I had believed for the longest time that the Waite-Smith deck, was the first fully illustrated deck. What do I mean by that? Well, look here. Look at the Three of Swords, for example. Three of Swords shows a picture. When we look at a Marseille deck, at Visconti Sforza, in the Minor Arcana, the pip cards are not illustrated. The Two of Swords shows two swords. The 10 of Cups shows 10 cups. That's the way it is. Okay, let me just look at, let me just take a look at some of the comments here. Okay, very good. No, that's the thing, Donna. Solabusca was the first one that was not incomplete. It was complete. Visconti Sforza was not complete, but Solabusca was. Okay. Interesting conversation about P.T. Barnum. If you're a podcast person, Time Suck by Dan Cummins is kind of a fun, it's raunchy, but it's kind of a fun podcast. And he just did this whole thing on P.T. Barnum. It was very, very interesting, just saying. All right, so there's Solabusca. Now, we all know about Tarot de Marseille, and there are many readers who are de Marseille readers. I'm not one, but there are many. And so a lot of de Marseille readers will say, This is the more accurate or true tarot because it is the older version. Okay. But we all know what happened in 1910. The Rider-Waite-Smith deck in 1910. Now, get ready for another rant. I get really tired of people calling any Waite deck a Rider deck. I get really tired of people spelling Rider with a Y. Like, where did that even come from? Here's the deal. Rider was the original publisher. Unless the deck is named Rider or was published by Rider, it's not a Rider deck. In fact, I had someone the other day show me an Albano Waite and insist it was a Rider. I'm like, no, it's Albano. That's the point. Albano was the publisher of that deck. So Rider was the publisher. Waite was the designer. A.E. Waite. Smith was the artist. Okay, let's talk a little bit about A.E. Waite. He was a member of the Golden Dawn, along with Aleister Crowley. Both of them were members of the Golden Dawn. And they had an argument. Here comes more witch wars. They had an argument. In fact, they didn't like each other at all. If you read their writings, it's really funny because they snipe at each other in writings. Crowley calls Waite dead weight. And one of the things they argued about was tarot's origins, as apparently we still do. Waite said that the origins were Europe. Crowley said they were Egypt. And let's talk just for a minute about Pamela Colman Smith. This is one of my favorite photos. This is the late Stuart Kaplan. I went to visit him when I was in Connecticut. This was quite 7 years ago, I would say, 7 years ago. And this was in Stuart Kaplan's office. He has this painting of Pamela Colman Smith. She was nicknamed Pixie. She was only like 19 when she drew the images under A.E. Waite's direction for the Waite deck. It's only been in the past 10 years or so that we've started calling it the Waite-Smith. Before that, we were beginning to call it the RWS for Rider-Waite-Smith. But it took a while for Pixie to get some recognition. Pixie wrote a letter to a friend the summer that she was working on this deck, and she did it all 78 images in just one summer. And she said she had a very big job for very little money. So is the life of an artist. What's Pixie doing in this picture? You see her, she's got this picture of a sheep, not a picture, but a statue of a sheep. Pixie was a professional storyteller. Remember, in these days, there was not television, there were not movies. And so Pixie would be invited to parties where she would sit on the floor with these figurines and tell stories. Now, there is no evidence that Pixie had any interest in tarot. She was a devout Catholic, and she was an artist, she was a storyteller. I believe she was that summer a member of the Golden Dawn. I'm not sure. There are numerous books now that have been written about Pamela Colman Smith. I haven't read them, so there's a lot of information there if you want to know more about her. Coming from Connecticut, I can tell you that some of her paintings hang in Gillette Castle in Connecticut. Which is kind of cool. I'm not sure what her connection to Connecticut was, but apparently there was something. Okay, so remember I said to you that A.E. Waite and Aleister Crowley had a bro war. They had an issue. So Aleister Crowley was very sure that tarot came from Egypt. So you know what he did? He went to Egypt. And he channeled, get this, the hierarchical forces that rule the universe. They told him that tarot was from Egypt. Doesn't that remind you of like religious leaders even today? God told me, right? Okay. Was she from the Caribbean? I think one of her parents was from Jamaica and she lived in Jamaica at some point. There is a Jamaican connection there. Okay. Okay. Okay, here we go. So, Aleister Crowley comes back armed with this information from the hierarchical forces who rule the universe, and he gets another woman, Lady Frida Harris, to draw his tarot deck, which is really very different. Now, when we talk about the different traditions of tarot, and if you came to StarCon last year, you might have seen Beverly Frable's presentation on the different styles of tarot. She talks about Marseille, Waite, and Crowley. And we understand that Marseille has pip cards, minor arcana cards that are not illustrated. Waite is fully illustrated. And Crowley has what is sometimes called moody minors, where the minors are not illustrated with pictures of people doing things, but there's still a mood there. Kim, I recently learned that Pixie misled people about her origins as well, kind of like the misinformation about the origins of the tarot. Had heard she was a person of color, but race, ethnicity, actually unknown. Yep. Aleister Crowley was Barbara Bush's father? Really? Now that is one I've never heard. That's just way too interesting. I don't even know what to do with that. Okay, so just to come up into modern history a little bit, I want to talk about what a couple of other traditions of tarot that I see. Okay, so we have Marseille, we have Waite, we have Crowley. We also have feminist tarot. There's Mother Peace, and there's Daughters of the Moon and Gaian tarot, a much more modern deck. So I love to think about feminist tarot as its own tradition. There are other feminist tarot decks. Gendron is another one. Maybe you would even see Moonchild Tarot as a feminist deck. But the idea that starting with Mother Peace, women saw tarot as being powerful, but as being kind of classist, patriarchal, racist, at least very white, and created new decks in feminist culture. And so I propose to you that in our history, we have developed a new tradition of tarot, feminist tarot. Okay, Kim, is there significance to all these men having women do the artistic work for them? Interesting question, isn't it? Okay, so another tradition of tarot I submit to you is what I call archetypal assignment. Now, these are modern tarot decks where the artist comes up with a theme and finds within that theme characters that match the archetypes of tarot. For example, Chris Walder makes Goddess Tarot. The Goddess Tarot, I happen to have it right here. And so she finds goddesses from world cultures and assigns them to the major arcana cards. She then creates Lover's Path Tarot, where she takes love stories from fact and fiction and wherever, and assigns those to the major arcana. For example, here we see card 5, the Hierophant, which she calls tradition, as Romeo and Juliet. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so Donna, yes, female genital mutilation. Sorry, but there it is. Yes, when the designers of Motherpiece, Vicky Noble, and I'm losing the other name and I apologize. Karen Vogel, Noble and Vogel. When they designed the deck, they used images from all over the world, and they did not realize until later that they used images from a group in Africa that practiced FGM. And I know we use FGM to stand for fairy godmother, and I'm your tarot fairy godmother, but it also stands for female genital mutilation. Weird, but true. And so, yeah, that's true. That's true. Marion, the She-Wolf Tarot is a stunning feminist deck. I'll look for that. 12-Step Tarot, I heard you say one time that the round cards are read on a tilt. Yes. Yes, this was a tradition, and I don't know how other round decks do it, but Motherpiece said that, if the cards are tilted one way, the energy is forced. The other way, the energy is resisted. And the more the card tilts, the more that is true. Donna, they didn't realize. They didn't realize that that's what they were doing. Right? So they were quite embarrassed when they found out. These things happen. All right. So, just some more archetypal assignment cards. Here we have the star from Mythic Tarot, where we see the star is Pandora, letting all the evil into the world. Why is she the star? Because a keyword for the star is hope. And what's left in Pandora's box after all the evil escapes? Hope. All right, and next to it, from Julie Kusha Watts, from Ancestral Path Tarot, the Two of Cups. Here we see Arthur and Guinevere as the Two of Cups. Kim, the two problematic cards were both from that same culture. It was both about that. Oh, but there was another one that I found problematic, which was the Hierophant, which is a man wearing false breasts. Doesn't really play because it feels transphobic now. Peggy Lou, what would Benabel Wen's Spirit Keepers Tarot be? That's a great question, and I'm not sure. Maybe she started her own tradition. I am just not sure, whatever people think. Okay, so now there's also theme decks. And archetypal assignment decks and theme decks intersect. There's a Venn diagram there. The Unicorn Tarot, like some theme decks are just like they take the weight image and then they put whatever the theme is. Like in the Unicorn Tarot, just stick a unicorn in it and it becomes a Unicorn Tarot. But here we have medieval cats. Here we have the Tarot of Baseball. And that really was sort of archetypal assignment. And here we have Angel Tarot, where each major arcana card is associated with an angel. And of course, that's Doreen Virtue talking about scandal. Doreen Virtue had a Christian experience and has renounced all cards of divination. So there's that. Yeah, no, Motherpiece did not age well. That is a darn fact. So, remember that I mentioned to you, okay, let's see, a couple questions. Autumn Pond, thanks for being here and thanks for being a member. Are you aware of Cosmic Tribe Tarot? Yes, I am. A member of the Radical Fairy Community Photoshopped Live Models. All right. Donna, there's a lot of convo of tarot getting lost and blurred because of all the different kinds. What's my take? I am so glad you asked. There is that question. And there was that question about, like, if tarot becomes more mainstream, does it get lost? And tarot is enjoying, being much more mainstream now than ever before. Will it get lost? Will it get changed? I don't think so. The whole question is, should tarot be exoteric or esoteric? And there are people who have believed and who do believe that tarot is just for the initiated. Others believe that tarot is for everyone. Do I think tarot gets changed and watered down? Every time someone reads tarot, it gets changed because the cards read differently for each person each time if you do it right. But I think there are enough scholars, enough historians, enough traditionalists that we will remember the traditions even as it expands. And, there's this whole question about what actually is a tarot deck. At what point is a deck a tarot-like deck versus a tarot deck? That's a question too. Okay, so remember we were talking about these two tarot traditions that come out of mundane tarot origins. One is tarot poetry, yay. And the other is real people as tarot characters. Starting with Visconti Sforza, and let's see who else did it. Look at that. Salvador Dali as the magician in his own deck. So imagine you're creating a deck and you're going to put yourself in the deck. Which card would you be? Dali chose the magician. Which card would you choose? If you were only going to put one person that you knew and it was going to be you in the deck, which card would it be? I love Dali as the magician. What would you choose? Okay, clumsy clairvoyance. I believe that one of the traditional tarot deck origins has at least 4 archangels represented in it. I don't know. I cannot answer that. I do not know. We do know that the 4 evangelists, the four writers of the gospel, who are also the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac and the 4 elements, are in the Waite deck in both the Wheel of Fortune and the World, but I do not know. All right. Okay, so Autumn Pond would be the Fool. Betty would be the Star. Go ahead. I want to know which card would you be? Marion would be the Devil. I think I would be Temperance. I would love to be Temperance. That would make me happy. Okay, so let's see other people. Donna would be the World. Let's see other people in tarot. Here, from Julia Kusha Watt's Ancestral Path Tarot, the Fool is Tracy Hoover as a tarot reader. And she is the author of the accompanying book. So this is a tip of the hat to the author by making her the Fool. Okay, so let's see. Ashriel would be the nicest devil. Donna would be the hermit. Barbara O'Brien would be the magician. Peggy Lou would be the sun. Horst Van Dunn, are you talking about a particular deck? Tell us more. Tell us more. Peggy Lou would be the sun. Clumsy clairvoyance would be death. Claire would be the chariot. Christine would be the empress. Kim, people argue about traditional meanings. I have to think there's many different traditions. Do you believe there's one true tradition? No, I don't. Because no. Because which one of us has read the book by Atea and uses those? I don't even use Waite's interpretation from the PKT, Pictorial Key to the Tarot. I don't even use that. So, everyone has their own take. I think the archetypes have to hold together at some point. I think the elemental understanding has to hold together. I think the numerical understanding has to hold together somewhere. Yolanda would be the high priestess. I could totally see that. Kim, I always come up as the star in readings, always hoping for what I don't have. Cool. Okay. And Kim, magician feels right for Dolly. I agree. Horse Fan Dunn, those were angels and archangels connected to certain cards in Major Arcana. Sure. And in the original Major Arcana, there were like the 12 virtues. No, excuse me, not 12, the 7 virtues. Again, definitely looking at Christian thought at that time. That's where the archetypes came from. Oh, Betty, thank you. I could be the strength card. I would love that. Peggy says I would be different majors on different days. Kim, we just debunked Atea. So, it's interesting, right? He's the world's first tarot author, the world's first professional tarot reader, the world's first occult deck designer, but he's also kind of a jerk. Like, oh no, you didn't write that book first. I did. It's an interesting thing. Okay. Dave Victor, if there's one thing you've taught in these classes is that many tarot interpretations are mutable and that the reader's intuition counts for much of the magic. Yes. Thank you for putting it that way. I appreciate that. I really think that's true. Absolutely. If you become dogmatic and fundamentalist about tarot, you're going to be a lousy reader. Okay. Recognize her? This is the 8 of Wands and Vanessa Tarot. It's Samantha Stevens. How cool is that? So, I want to stop sharing here. Let me figure out how to stop sharing. Give me 1 minute. So I figured out how to do it. I didn't figure out how to stop it. That's not exactly what I wanted to do. How do I do this? Hang on a minute. Give me 1 second. Show. Nope, that didn't work. Okay, well, let's go back to a cool picture, and that's what we'll do. We'll go back to this. How about that? I screwed it up, you guys. I knew I would. There we are. Okay, we'll leave it here. Wait, clones. I think this is fun because it shows you the same card, 4 of Wands, in a number of Waite clone images. Because we know Waite has been cloned a lot. So we've got Waite, we've got Robin Wood, we've got the Gummy Bear Tarot, and we've got the 4 of Wands in Hanson Roberts. Pretty cool. All right. Okay, so let's see. Where are we here? Okay, so that's my take on tarot history. Here's my take on why it's important. Tarot comes from this really mundane thing. When we study tarot now, we think about the 4 elements, we think about Kabbalah, we think about numerology, we find all of these correspondences and associations, and it is deep and it makes sense. How did these things get there? That's the part that no one really knows. We know where tarot comes from. We know that it started as a game. And there are a lot of people, a lot of tarotists who are very upset by this. I was very upset by this when I learned it. But the mystery is happy coincidence that these correspondences work. Astrology is a correspondent. There's lots of correspondences. Happy coincidence. They were put there secretly, but no one knows and there's no evidence. or they were in fact divinely inspired. Again, no evidence. What do you think? Happy coincidence? Put there by people? Divinely inspired. And does it matter? The magic is in the mundane. And I think this is true in our lives too. That, it would be great if we could spend all day long doing ritual and hanging out with our crystals and burning incense, but no one gets to do that. But we can find magic in going to the grocery store. We can find magic in doing the dishes. Magic is in the mundane. That's what I think. Okay. It might be at the bottom of the screen. Yeah, I'm having a hard time finding it, but that's okay. I'm just going to have you see the Four of Wands till we're done. Thank you for that. Okay. So, right, Donna, they had to tweak the Kabbalah to make it work. Same with astrology. They had to tweak that to make it work, but they did make it work. So, I would love to hear your thoughts. How does recognizing that this deck of magical tools, this deck of divination that helps us connect to spirit, that helps us understand one another, that helps us communicate with each other, how do you feel about the fact that this came simply as a playing deck, a card game, and now is a sacred tool? To me, that's where the magic is. What do you think? Clumsy clairvoyance, I think it's all those things. Carrie, I see tarot as a language. You learn the words and the structure, but then it's up to you how to communicate. Sure. Kim, I think it's funny that people think you can't read tarot without understanding astrology, Kabbalah, or everything else the Golden Dawn laid on top of it. But none of that was originally in the tarot. And tarot wasn't even originally in the tarot. It's such an interesting thing. Claire, universal intelligence and archetypes for those who plug in. Sure. Now, this is one of the differences, I think, between tarot and Lenormand. Lenormand was specifically designed as a deck of divination. I'm actually quoting Mary Kay Greer here. Tarot was not. You can read, and that's why there is no one tarot tradition, because we all made it up, right? Lenormand was designed to read in a specific way. Tarot was not. And so you can do anything you want to with it. Donna says, it's us. Yes. Dave, people have read the traditional playing cards for a long time. Yes, there are a number of traditions for that, and it's a great thing. Claire says, much like the I Ching. In a lot of ways, sure. Gina, I think that divination is everywhere. We just happen to have found it in a card game. So true, so true, so true. Yolanda points out the connection between tarot and psychology and Carl Jung. Sure. Good Journeys Tarot. I've been trying to wrap my head around this for a few months now, but in the end, I feel like if it works, what does it matter where it comes from? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Peggy Lou, I like the idea that tarot is magic hidden in plain sight in ancient times. Sure. Betty Flesher, just like some use divination in reading tea leaves, reading palms. Right, you can read anything. You can literally read animal droppings. Right? You can read anything. Clumsy clairvoyance. A tarot deck to a reader is almost like a wand to a wizard. Absolutely. Marion, I was thrilled when I learned the origins of tarot as I connect my intuition while being taught to play poker. As I connected with my intuition while being taught to play poker. That's beautiful. La Morena, I literally came in. I wonder if you talked about what I was expecting. Well, you're going to have to watch the replay. Nice to see you. Sarah, I love the mundane origins of tarot. Just because it's mundane doesn't mean it's not magical. Yes. And so I have real issue with the people who write books on like tarot comes from the Cathars or tarot comes from this and comes from that with no evidence, just sort of circumstantial. I think it's great to make up stories. We make up stories with tarot. It's great to make up stories about tarot. Mythology is a wonderful thing. And creating mythology about tarot is a wonderful thing. But I think we need to acknowledge that it's mythology. Dave, shaman tradition has had reading from animal entrails for a long time. Yep. Ashrael, I love how you put it. Other card systems have similar origins. Some were card games. They're all created by people. Can't people be divine? Oh, yes, we are. That's what I like about it. Very, very well said. Thank you so much. So we're in our final 5 minutes. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this, whether you're here live with me right now or watching the replay. Thank you so much for that. Betty, tarot is magic. Shuffling the cards is magic. Yeah, I've been thinking about that more and more, that, we have the chakras in the palms of our hands. When we shuffle and randomize, we're doing magic, and we're inviting in the magic of random. And that's a beautiful thing. And so the fact that tarot has mundane origin does not in any way take away from the magic. In fact, I think it adds to it. Some people say the reason these barriers to reading tarot were set up was so that you would have to pay the reader to do it for you. I don't know. Donna, Vlad the Impaler, the real Dracula, was involved. That I don't know anything about that either, but I think you said something about Bob Place knowing about that. So we could find that in his books, I bet. Kim, I love the spiritual in the mundane of everything, including the cards. Yes. Sarah, we make the tarot magic. Without us, they really are just pieces of paper with ink. So that's an interesting question, because some people are animists and believe that there really is power, that it is more than that. And I would have to say, I think there is magic in the archetypes. I think the archetypes themselves have power. So there's a lot of different ways for us to see these things. No one's right, no one's wrong. It's just like different churches or different religions. There are different schools of belief. But when it comes to history, there is evidence. And it's important that we know the evidence. JF, thanks for being here, and thanks for being a member. I really enjoyed this, and it made the last artwork go by quicker. Excellent. All right, so I just want to remind you about a few things. We have a class coming up on Thursday. It is our first hybrid class. If you happen to be local and want to come to the class in Palm City, you are welcome. If you want to come in on Zoom, you are welcome. We have a new device. It's called an Owl. It's from Owl Labs. My daughter said, "Oh, ha, 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 Alistair Owley." So that's what it's called now. It's Alistair Owley. And this device allows us to all meet together in the hybrid, the hybrid environment. You need a ticket. It's $40. You can get a ticket either for in-person or Zoom on my website, ChristianaGaudet.com or tarotbychristiana.com. We'd love to see you there. We also have a free class right back here on YouTube, Saturday morning, 10:30 a.m. in Eastern time, and that is the Aces and Tens. We're going to do the Aces and Tens. Betty Flesher, I respect my cards. I just do. Yeah, absolutely. And as magical tools, we treat them with respect, right? We use them in ritual. We do a dedication for them when we get them. So there's nothing about the history that makes them any less magical. So let me change the background here for the last few minutes. Fools! Now we have fools. That's cool, right? Fools. Well, I think it just says ools, but okay. One way or the other, it's all good. So this is my first time using this, this aspect of this particular program, so I'm learning. Clumsy Clairvoyance, you're my best friend. So thank you so much for being here. Sandra Banks, the hero's journey, the human experience, every card is a step along the path. Absolutely. Absolutely. What is the topic of Thursday's class? Oh, right. Thank you. Keywords and interpretations. We're going to learn about how we remember keywords and how we discover new keywords for the cards and how that combines with our intuition to give an actual tarot reading. Marion, great class, rant. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for letting me rant. I really appreciate it. And let's see what else. I do want to remind you to sign up for my newsletter. You can do that on my website. You can also make an appointment for a reading if you like, ChristianaGaudet.com or tarotbychristiana.com. And I want to remind you about StarCon, STAARCON. .com. That's the website. You can also find Starcast, STAARCAST. That is our podcast. It is a YouTube channel. You can watch the videos or download wherever you get your podcasts. StarCon 2022 will be held January 21st through 23rd in person in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, and online on Excel Events, hybrid. If you want to come or can come, be with us in Florida, please do. If you want to come in on Excel Events, it is a great conferencing platform. It'll be a lot of fun. Get your tickets now. Oh, the middle card was your first deck, La Morena. Now I've lost it. I've lost the name of it. Shadowscapes. Shadowscapes. All right. Thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Ashriel, for teaching me how to say Atea. Really appreciate that. And anyone watching who can correct anything I said, as I said earlier, I am not a historian. I'm not an historian. So please do correct me if I said anything that is not correct. But I will tell you, tarot didn't come from Egypt. It didn't come from the Cathars. We do know the origin of tarot, and none of that makes it any less mystical. Thank you all so much for being here. Take really good care. I will look forward to seeing you all soon.